So, John, we have a question that came in, and it's not the first time. It's a pattern. It's a spouse saying, "Hey, my husband lashes out in anger. It's unpredictable, and then later comes back around and apologizes, and then we just seem to keep going in this cycle." What's going on there, and what can somebody do about that?
Yeah, Les, I'm really glad that the spouse said it's a pattern because, a one-time thing, unless it's like robbing a bank, should kind of be overlooked a bit. But a pattern, you cannot overlook a pattern. And I define a pattern as if it happens three times or more, you'd better do something about it because something bad's happening. Now, the first thing you got to figure out is the why. Why would that be happening? There's several reasons that this lashing out and then later apology happens. First is that the person is overwhelmed and they go into the amygdala, the fight or flight place. They're not thinking rationally because they got too much stress or they didn't get good training in how to have tough conversation, but they're just overwhelmed. The second one is they have poor impulse control. They just grown up learning to just blow up and then everything's chill after that. The other one is entitlement. Sometimes a spouse will have entitlement, which means I can say whatever I want to you and being as mean as I need to be because if I just say I'm sorry, there will not be any consequences. That's what entitlement is. I can do whatever I want. If I say bad, I'm bad for that, no consequences. So you've got to be able to understand what's going on. And then you create what I call a dedicated conversation. And I have a system for this dedicated conversation.
Okay, so you understand kind of what may be driving the outbursts and so forth, and but I know that some people watching right now are going, "Oh man, you've pegged it," because he feels like he's just supposed to put all his feelings out there all the time, and he has a right to do that. And so, like, okay, we've got that. Now what?
Yeah. I mean, you don't have the right to yell fire in a crowded theater. So
Yeah.
the whole thing about I can say anything I want to, it's how I felt, then the answer is, you mean you can say anything as unloving as you want to, and I can do that with you? And that's a bad thing. So we don't allow that to happen. So we start with this, what I call the dedicated conversation, meaning don't do what we're talking about here in the heat of battle. When they do it, don't say, well, okay, here's what we're going to do about it, because they're not in their right mind. They're in their fight or flight. So when there's a good time, say, I don't know, Tuesday, and we're all sitting around, I mean, the kids aren't there, but we're having a nice time, and say, can we talk about something that's important to me? So do it during a peaceful time. Then just start off with expressing love and appreciation. I love who we are. I love our dance. I love so much about us. And not only that, but when I'm not so great as a spouse, I want to change for you. And I hope you feel free to let me know anytime I'm being unloving or not a good spouse for you. Do you feel free to do that? Most of the time they'll say, sure, I feel like I can, and all that. Then you say, okay, then I want to do the same thing on my end because this is troubling me about us. There's a pattern. And the pattern is that when we're at odds, whether it's money or sex or kids or parenting or in-laws, whatever it is, you really blow at me and say hurtful things. And I want to tell you about its impact is that it makes me feel unloved. It makes me feel unlovable. It doesn't draw me closer to you. And the next thing to do is say, are you aware of this? Now, I like to look at things in a continuum of mild, moderate, severe, because it helps us to understand these. If it's mild and you say, are you aware of it? They'll go, yeah, I kind of am, and I'm sorry, and I gotta get this going. And that's when you say, thank you for saying that. Thanks for being honest. I want to help. Can I ask for a few things? And the person says, whatever you want. Well, I'd like a commitment that you want to stop this. Like I would stop anything that hurts you. That's just reasonable. And if it's mild, the person will go, you got that commitment. Second thing is say, I want an accountability that I can bring this to you and talk about it when it happens. Any mild spouse would say yes. The next thing is I need new behaviors. And I'm not your therapist. I'm not trained as a therapist or anything, but I have been, reading sources on this because it's important. If it happens again, I'd like to remind you of what we're agreeing on. Here's all I want, honey, is that when you're not feeling good about us because we're arguing about whatever, I want you to say words that are more vulnerable, like, Sally, I'm frustrated right now. I feel disconnected. I feel like we're not hearing each other. I feel overwhelmed. Those words will get what you want, will solve the problem as much better than the ugly name calling. If you use those kind of words about my feelings and how I'm just frustrated and overwhelmed, that changes everything. That's the mild piece. Now,
All right.
All right. Now the severe,
What
right?
do we
well,
do?
let's go to moderate first because there's kind of
Okay.
a good place to go there. Because well, a lot of our viewers here are going to say, "I don't have that. He or she a nice person, but I get blaming, I get excuses." Well, if you hadn't have, well, if you would just do this,
Right.
and you don't get the "I'm so sorry, I'll fall on my sword for you," you get the "Well, you caused it." That's the moderate expect, and that's when you say, "So glad you said that. Maybe I did trigger that, or maybe I did come across harsh, or maybe I did unload too much at you. I will change that." As you say, Les, I love it when you say it's like that's my piece of the pie, and you do that, and that's your problem. But then you say, if I'm going to do that, I have to insist on you taking responsibility, and because I'm part of it, but you made your choices. Will you do that? A moderate will kind of grumble about it, but they'll kind of go, "Yeah, you're right, and you're okay." And then you do those
Okay.
same things about training them what a more vulnerable way to talk as opposed to an angry way. And then if you got the severe, there's no ownership of it. I don't do that. I've had to tell couples. I did a week ago. Get a video recorder and say, okay, from now on, I want you to see what you're doing because you won't believe the words you say to me and how you raise up the energy. And when they start in it, just and after about 2 or 3, his spouse will go either stop that and I'll change, or they'll go, I had no idea. Sometimes you need a. It's like having your mini counselor in the house at the same
Right.
time saying that was over the line instead of, well, it's a he said she said. No, it was clearly over the line. And then if it's that bad, I would get counseling. I'd find a good counselor and say, we need help because we may not be here like 20 years. We may need a few sessions on this because this is hurting our marriage.
Yeah. That's so good because that pattern, no one should live with this pattern of somebody erupting in anger and then apologizing and thinking everything's good because now I can do it again and again and again. You don't have to live that way. John, thanks for the wisdom.